One man with one microphone who is a father to 3 amazing children. Welcome to the Trailer Music Composers Podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to another session of the Trailer Music Composers Podcast. In today's episode, I wanted to ask the question, what do you do with overwhelm? What do you do when it gets all too much? What do you do when you just don't feel like you can handle it? Because it happens. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. Now, the reason I brought this up is because it's all very good talking about following your passion, following your dream, and, smashing out trailer queues as quickly and as easily as possible, and landing tons of placements. But, none of that makes you immune to overwhelm. None of that makes you immune to finding it all too much. And that's why I wanted to talk about it today. I wanted you to think about that possibility and how you might handle it, or how you have handled it. And it can come in many, many forms. Overwhelm doesn't necessarily have to mean that you've got a lot of work on. Overwhelm could be a single track that you just cannot break through. Overwhelm could be everything else in your life pulling you down and that affecting your writing. It's a really interesting topic for me. I've been a full-time creative person. I say full-time creative professional for a long time now, about a decade now. And before that, I'd been a part-time creative professional, and obviously before that, a hobbyist. Amateur, air quotes. And it's really interesting to notice, looking back, when I have suffered overwhelm and what has been creating that. And the times when I've experienced it the most and the most intensely is usually from sources outside of my work. It's when everything else in my life is overwhelming me, where I don't feel in control of the rest of my life. And then that just completely smothers my writing, completely smothers my work. And the other times when it's not the rest of my life, it's my work. It's not even the work that's creating it. It's the pressure of deadlines or the pressure of clients' expectations. So for me, it's the external again. It's other people are creating pressure and overwhelm for me. So the first thing you can do when you experience this is establishing clear boundaries. Make sure that the people you work with know when you work and know what your expectations of your work are. Because otherwise people will push your boundary. So for instance, if you don't want to work in the evenings, you need to stipulate that. You need to say, you don't have to be a diva about it. You just say, I don't work in the evenings. A while back, a few years back, I kind of said, I'm going to stop working in the evenings. I will just do the work during my working hours. No one kind of slapped me in the face. No one kicked up a stink about it. Everyone just went, sure thing. It's kind of like you go to a shop, you see the shop door sign says closed, it'll open again in an hour. You don't smash the window and throw a strop. You go, all right, fair enough, I'll come back in an hour. It's the same with your own boundaries. You must make sure that people know them, because then they'll know not to push them. And if they do keep continually pushing your boundaries, then you reassess how that boundary is stipulated and who and why they're doing it, who they are and why they're doing it, potentially. And that might be another issue altogether. But this is a really important thing. Don't do weekends. It can wait. Like, it sounds like you're being a diva, but do you know what? Just because we're in a creative job doesn't mean we have to be completely free and flexible all the time. That's right, free and flexible. It doesn't mean we have to be free and flexible. We can say, you know what, I don't work on the weekends, I have kids, I have a family, I have a social life. Admittedly, most of us don't really have a social life in lockdown at the moment, but an e-social life. So you just need to make sure that is stipulated. And that will really help with those boundaries. And that was a huge changer for me when I stopped taking work on in the evenings and the weekends, because then it's like, oh, they've asked me to do some work on a Friday. I say, great, I'll start on a Monday. Job done. And relax into the weekend. Really important, that one. And in fact, actually, that is one of the biggest causes of overwhelm for me, and that was one of the biggest causes of overwhelm, was managing other people's expectations of my output and my work. Now, if we then sort of go more broadly to other things outside of your work that could be causing overwhelm, and this is a message for me, because this is the new boundary I need to establish with myself, is understanding what is causing that overwhelm and how you can manage it. So one of the big things is lists of priorities, and I don't mean like get your priorities straight, son. I mean understanding what needs to be done first and working on that first. Not doing 3 things at once, not doing the funnest thing first and putting the least fun thing at the bottom. Richard, do the first and most important thing first. And you establish the priorities by understanding what's most important and what's most urgent. Combining those two will then help you understand what to prioritise. And it's important that you say, okay, perhaps today, with my creative work, I just do this one thing, and then I knock off. No, that sounds terrible. Then that was also going to sound terrible. Scribble out. That's better. Then I scribble out one of the other things in my life that is causing me stress, and I can guarantee it's something that you've been putting off a while. So I'm probably, if I have time, I'm going to head home right now because I'm walking in the woods. I'm going to go home and I'm going to see if there is something outside of my creative life that I can do that has been niggling at me for a while. It's getting rid of your nagging tasks. If you imagine that each one of those nagging tasks is a little weight on your shoulder that you cannot see, if you've got 30 of those things, you're going to be dragging those tasks around with you all the time, and that will hinder your creativity, hinder your productivity, and give you burnout and overwhelm really, really quickly. And I'm talking from experience, guys. I am supremely experienced in the art of burnout. Like, I get it. You know, some might say that at some points in my life that has been my jam. Every spare moment I have doing things I shouldn't be doing, and my list of undone tasks grows whilst my list of frustrations creatively grows at the same time, because I'm not prioritising. So those are the 2 huge lessons today from this podcast. This takeaway for you in your creative and your life is establishing clear boundaries with yourself and other people, and then making those priorities in your life clear and doing one thing at a time. Just one thing, not tons of things, one thing. Because then if you've done your boundaries and you've set your priorities right, because that means boundaries with yourself, you can then say, well, I'm only going to be doing 3 of my things today, because that's a boundary for yourself. Then that way you'll get the stuff done.
Yeah, exactly.
You will be respectful of your own time, and you'll feel so much better for it. So I'm going to end this podcast early so that I can go home and do one of those things too, because, you know, as much as I like to pretend I'm on some kind of pedestal of awesomeness, I'm not. I'm just like you, you know. I get anxious, I get worried, I suffer overwhelm and burnout. I still don't feel good enough, you know. I experience envy, you know, all those things. They're all there. Getting awards and loads of placements doesn't get rid of them. So you have to do that work every day. It's like a continual flow. It's like creativity. You have to deal with those weeds. You're constantly weeding your garden. Not that garden, guys. So I'm going to go, and I want to say thank you for dedicating your time to listen to this, and I really do hope that you can take one thing off your nagging task lists today, or perhaps you can establish one boundary today where you say, I'm not going to work then, and I don't have to. Bosh. I'm not going to do that brief because I don't have to and I don't want to. Bosh. Boundary. So I hope you've had lovely days, mornings, afternoons, evenings, nights, sleeps, naps, and thank you very much for listening, guys. You're absolute legends, and I will speak to you next week.